Hello, welcome to this episode of the Independent Dealer Podcast. We are here with Jared Halsted out of Arizona. He's going to chat with us so much great information, a little bit about buy here, pay here models, and a whole lot about some awesome curb stoning laws that Arizona's put into place.
Yeah, Jared, I tell you, really, the association out in Arizona went above and beyond and got a law that every state should try to get passed. And the biggest thing at the very end of the day, the way you get these things passed is the relationships that we make as individual dealers with our representatives. So thanks for being here with us, Jared.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate you bringing me on.
You are listening to the Independent Dealer Podcast with hosts Luke Godwin and Jeff Watson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's do this.
All right, guys and gals, we have got Jared Halsted here. Jared is out of the southeast corner of the Phoenix Valley. Was that fair to say, Jared? I mean, you're right there in Queen Street.
That's about as far south of the east as you can go from Phoenix before you have to go over the mountains of Tucson. So
yeah, then you're basically on the border. I mean, I think we've all but given up Tucson to Mexico. So
yeah, right.
I don't know if that's
you nailed it. Yeah.
I don't know if they've officially put the wall in yet, but so Jared, real quick, give us kind of your background. I mean, we want to get to know you. How'd you get into the car business? What's your business model today? And you just took on some pretty serious responsibilities there in Arizona. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I'm born and raised in Queen Creek, Chandler area. Been out here my whole life. My third generation out here, and I grew up working on dairy farms after high school, and then I got driving trucks and got moving cars. And dealership friend of mine, he had a dealership. He hired me to move some cars, and on a weekend, I accidentally sold a car. He's like, "Man, you're good. You should come back to it again." And next thing you know, I'm selling cars, and he took off and separated from his partner, opened up an internet-based dealership back when eBay was huge. eBay, and we were knocking out 200 cars a month, and I'm in my 20s, just thinking, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. And of course, that crashed, and the internet eBay thing died. So I went to work for a few other dealers and just kind of learned the best from each one of them. And, I've been licensed in Arizona between wholesale and being partnered with him for years, but I decided I wanted my own thing. I didn't want to work for anyone else. I want someone to steer the ship. We were getting ready to have a kid, and I decided to just completely throw everything I had into it, sold my rental property, sold everything, and opened up Double H. And that was 7 years ago out here. We're in our 7th year now. And probably the scariest thing I've ever done, but by rubbing elbows with the right people and learning from people, and like you said, you're part of a 20 group, and your AIADAs or IADAs, state IADAs, just kind of got the help from the right people. I didn't have family to teach me this. I didn't have, I didn't come from a car line of people. So just kind of worked into this, and, it just kind of happened. It's been a great journey so far. So
your current car lot, your current makeup, your buy here, pay here, or your retail, what's your business?
We are buy here, pay here. We are buy here, pay here out in Queen Creek. We keep on average about 30 to 40 cars available. All of our cars are priced under 10 grand, unless it's something I was driving. And we just have a really good system going out here. With the company, I met Scott Carlson a few years ago at the national convention and brought AutoZoom in. I know there's other vendors that do that, but that was a big impact on how we do business. And, the software we use, and rubbing elbows with other buy here, pay here guys who have known me since I was young, long before I started my own dealership, have just kind of watched me grow. They've been instrumental, I have to say, in guiding me in the right way and helping me learn from their mistakes that cost them so much. I've still made a lot of mistakes, but so that's my participation in our local dealer association here. I've been a member of the association for a long, long time, and I've been on the board of directors now for 6 or 7 years. And for some reason, they must like me. I'm young, I'm from Queen Creek and all that, but my peers elected me president of the association this year, which is a huge honor to me, huge. So
yeah, I found out a while back, Jared, that actually they elect you to that position because they don't like you.
That's probably it.
Just kidding. I've been president of the association. It's a great honor, and congratulations on that. And that's the AIADA has done a lot. It looks like here lately out there in Arizona, and man, that's awesome that y'all been involved so much. So buy here, pay here industry, is it any different in Arizona than it is in Utah or South Carolina, or is it all about the same out there?
I gotta assume it's about the same. I've only done business in Arizona. It's about the same. I mean, it's where I'm at, and especially being this rule out. There's a lot of good credit people out here, and unfortunately, when I first came out here, I was bringing all these newer cars in, like business models I'd seen before, and 3-4-year-old vehicles, low miles. The guys with the good credit and money, they pass right by me and driving into town to the new Ford store or whatever, and I kept getting customers coming in and wanting my trade-ins. Now, what can I get that for? I got 500 down and this and that. And a good friend of mine, Bobby Schuster, and Jeff Wallison, I've known literally since I was like 18 years old. I reached out to them. I said, listen, I've been around you guys at Buy Your Pay. I've worked for Buy Your Pay Your guy, but am I making the right choice? And they said, well, how much money you got? And from there, they kind of guided me into this. And, our business model completely changed from everything I'd grown up with. But it works really well. And out where I'm at, I work a mile from my little farm I live on, and it's a very small town community. So I don't know how everyone else's Buy Your Pay runs, but, we treat our customers right. We take care of them. We very rarely, in fact, we got customers on our 5th, 6th, 7th car over 7 years. So it's, my model is more keep them forever, and, you'll never lose them if you take care of them right. So.
Sure. And how many cars you got or accounts you have on the books?
We keep getting to about 130, ish. And at the time, that's kind of where the money was. We have room to grow now. But as you know, we're a smaller area, so as much as I want to increase volume, it's getting people. You're coming from the city, you're past 15 other guys doing what I'm doing with their sales tactics or sales guys, and they're going to lock you in. So if I'm the last one on there, so we keep it about the, low to mid hundreds, and we keep seeing to scale up a little bit. But just like you guys, I'm sure you experience, there's the write-offs, or you get a repost here and there, but the crash cars, and you don't get the customer back. They're worried about it. That's why we brought in a reinsurance program I'm doing now to kind of help fight that as well and keep customers driving. But it seems like every time I get to 130, 100 something, I'll lose 3 or 4, and I'll add 3 or 4, but I've kind of hit a plateau. So
I think,
it works
Jeff,
well for us.
You had a problem with that last month, right? You had more payout.
Tax time for me was like reverse. I feel like I had more tax money pay off accounts than actually put new accounts on the books. Tax time. It was weird.
How was your 1 week tax season there, Jared? Did you feel it, or are you still waiting on some money?
Oh no, the last week of February, including that extra day in February, that was a nice little extra day there. All the tax money started coming in. We've been working with customers that we've worked with before, or we're in current cars, and brought in. A lot of times we do that. We'll send emails and stuff, upgrade, and all of them were waiting for their tax money. So we had a couple of them come in and put a $200 deposit down, or I'm really big on handshake deposits. If I know the customer, they bought a few cars, and we put them aside. And all of a sudden, I'd say the Monday of the last week, the last 5-6 days of February were just intense. I mean, for a lot that only does 15 or so cars a month, sometimes hit 20, a real slow month we might do 12 or hit 22. We did like a car a day, and then on Friday and Saturday, I think we had 3 cars. It was just great. And we hit it hard. So
with some good down payments too, you're saying?
Good down payments, really good down payments. Now I had some of what you had. I had a lot of customers come pay off their car or give me $2,000 towards it, but I'll take money from anyone.
I was surprised by the amount of people that came out of the woods with no down payment. So not only, I saw a handful of tax people, $2, $3, $4 down, but I had just as many 200 down, 300 down, 500 down people. And I'm like, well, and I don't even think it was tax money. I'm like, where were you last month? Why didn't you come in January when I was slow and had options for you? You come in at the busiest time when I have no options and no time. It's just really interesting.
We got a few of those too. We always have those customers, but I had some customers come in that they just want to see what we could do for them. And I'm sure they maybe had a little more tax money, but I set them up for success, and we throw it out there, and if they how the customer is, they're going to come in and tell you the lowest that they can afford for down payment, even when they have some tax money, or we get the ones coming with tax money, just want to buy them outright cash. But I'm sure a lot of them could have put more down, but they can afford their insurance, everything else for their tax money. So it's hard to tell for me.
What's funny is what I saw, and what is unusual for us to see is we saw our normal down payment stay normal. And we get a big down payment. Don't get me wrong. I think we averaged around $1,750 or something like that for the year, down payment wise. But that it didn't move. And typically we see a big spike in down payment in tax time. but we didn't this year. Now that might be because I was gone 2 or 3 days last week buying cars, but I wasn't able to shape the deals a little bit better. But I'm not sure that people. Well, let me back this up. I think people now have their tax money spent in so many different places that we don't see the huge down payments that we used to see in tax time. We just see a lot more of the normal down payments.
Yeah. And people are accepting the fact that they can get away with 1,000 down or 1,500 down. They don't need 3 or 4,
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a lot of it, Jeff.
We're doing those deals. And to Jared's point, I want to point that out with buy here, pay here's especially, or even in retail. There's a million different ways to skin this cat. You know what I'm saying? There's a ton of different models, and Jared's model works very well for his neighborhood. I assume he's looking for people that are local, that are sticking around. He's not chasing them all over the place. He's not looking just to make some huge gross profit and then have a high charge off or repo rate, which that model also works in some areas. If you've got a high repo rate, you've got to have high gross margins if you're in downtown Atlanta or something like that,
Yeah.
So there's many, many different models, and I don't want anyone just listening to this or seeing one person's model and thinking, that's what I got to do. Because it might not work based off your demographics and your bank account and your, all those things.
Yep.
My model's adapted different than some of my mentors and friends have guided me. And I think you kind of grow to your area, and you have to learn your environment, your situation, and what model is going to work best for you. And for me, and I'll finance someone that's 100 miles away or something like that, if they meet the criteria, and in my Zoom and all that stuff. But we have a very low repossession rate. And I think it's the way that we treat the customers. And like you said, we being so far out, we have to be price competitive anyways. I mean, there's still risk-based pricing involved in anything, but we have to be so competitive in pricing to get people to drive from everywhere to get to us. Mm-hmm. But I think that our customers keep coming back because of the quality of car we provide and how we stand behind them and treat the customers. Now, I know guys that just roll a car out, just whatever, just roll the dice and like they're gambling in Vegas, and they're repoing 40, 50% of their cars, or especially during tax time. They'll roll out 25 cars, like, hey, I just hit 25 cars, but next month it's like, yeah, I got 16 of those back already. So it just depends. Like you said, you kind of got to figure out what's going to work best for you.
Yeah. So Jared, tell us this. I know that let's transition into your responsibilities now. You're very, very involved in the state association, and you've been very active and I would say probably a key mover in Arizona's curbstoning laws, right? Big news coming out of Arizona. You guys are the state that has actually taken the bull by the horn and done some stuff. Talk to us about that. Maybe first off, give us, for dealers that don't know or maybe aren't as involved, what is curbstoning? Why is it bad for us as licensed dealers? I don't think everyone they're like, oh, it's just the dude that's buying my $500 trade-in at the auction and he's selling it. I don't even care. Those guys are fine. Let them buy all my junk trade-ins. How does this hurt the dealer?
Well, I think it's evolved from the $500 trade-in too, because now you're seeing these, $10, $11, $12,000 trucks on the side of the road. So our biggest problem out here in Arizona is that the auction became tainted. You've got these dealers that either someone just puts them on their auction access. And at one point in time, we had an auction that you just see one dealer, and at the end of the auction, he's sitting at a table, and guys are handing money, they're signing titles off. And it just drove me crazy, because those are the guys that bid up the cars. The cars that I buy, at the time, my actual cost of the vehicle was, $3-4 grand. And those guys are running them up to that price, or running them up to $5-6 grand, $7 grand on them. And they're able to buy those cars, sell them without having to collect the sales tax or have the overhead or insurance or bonds or license, all the things that we have to do, the employees and everything else. And it taints the wholesale market and drives the price up. That was my big problem of it. And then the other problem is you look down the road and the same cars that you have on your lot, some guys got down the road for, a third of the price because he's just, rolling them out and doesn't care. And the customer just, sees on the side of the road, thinks they're buying from Peter when they're really buying from Paul, and Paul's the illegal dealer. So it was a huge, and still is a huge problem in Arizona, I'm sure in all states.
Well, how did you put the law together? What was in the law? Tell us, kind of explain to us a little more what y'all had to put together to stop this, because it's
it was such a long road, so I had to make some notes because I figured you guys asked that. So I got on the board of directors back about the time that this was going on. Our former president was a big pusher, Aubrey Strickstein. He was a big proponent of doing this. And then Dave Workman, our executive director, really got behind it. Dave's got some lobbying history in that. And, I'd say it started back about 2013, just before I was on the board. We started a curbstoning initiative and got together with different states. And the key factor we found in our state was we had to find a rainmaker. We had to find someone that was really going to get behind this and push it through the Senate. And at the time, it was Arizona Senator Fan, who's now the House President Fan, and she's the director of the Transportation Committee. And we brought to her attention this problem and how it's not a level playing field for all dealers. And she really pushed it through. By about 2015 or so, we were able to pass legislation and get with OIG, the Office of Inspector General here in Arizona, to really see the value of this and going after these guys that for revenue purposes too. And that created this snowball effect, I guess you could say, that was I have to attribute most of it to our executive director, Dave. He really got all these people together. But Arizona, I believe, has passed what I consider the most detailed curbstoning enforcement out there. And in doing so, we have, I always have to look, we've got the ADOT enforcement, Department of Revenue. That's a big one. When these guys get busted, it's one thing to have ADOT knock on your door, your dealer licensing. But we all know when the IRS or the Department of Revenue comes knocking on your door, that's not something you want to deal with. So in combination, we and our new governor, who hates new taxes but has no problem with level playing fields or fines, he really put this together, that we partnered up the Office of Inspector General, ADOT, dealer licensing enforcement, and the Department of Revenue together and formed a task force that's required to meet quarterly. It also is required to have at least 2 members from the state association, since we sponsored the bill. And we get together and really work hard on different ways and solutions that we can track. We want measurable solutions, not just how many guys can get, how many guys are out there doing it, and that. And they came up with a really good system to do that. And in doing so, I'm sure you guys saw the news, we're catching dealers in other states. It's gotten really big. It's kind of blown up. So.
And how did so we all know that these dealers are out there that are allowing people to curbstone, and let's define curbstone, because I'm not sure we did that earlier. But curbstoning is allowing, or the act of a individual who's not licensing selling cars on the side of the road, and that's the reason it's called curbstoning, because it's it's on the curb. But so how did y'all know that someone in Arizona was allowing other dealers to do what they did? I think there was 1,200 licensed under this one dealership. Is that correct? I mean, how'd y'all figure that out?
That's right. And they were out of other states.
Right.
Without giving too much away because of how they investigated. And again, like when we all got the press release, Dave and I don't find out till a few days before. We're not a part of active investigations, but the investigating part of it, you end up, you follow the money and you follow the titles. And the titles are the real trick, is how are these cars, how are they getting out from the auction, and how did they end up into a consumer's hand without the tax being collected and all that. And that was the real trick to it. And last year at the NIADA, I think we call it the president's meeting or board meeting there, California had mentioned that they were seeing an increase in Arizona licensed dealers purchasing cars at their auction, but that car never going back to Arizona, being titled in Arizona and ending up in a consumer's name in California. We were seeing the same problem with licensees from other state, and it tripped a flag. Also, as I'm sure the cat's coming out of the bag right now, I'm sure you guys have seen the ads everyone's showing about how to catch these guys. A lot of states are just advertising, hey, license for rent, and they're putting on Craigslist, hey, we'll rent it. And so our detectives basically, in this particular case, rented a license just to see how it worked. And that just led to one investigation to the other, and just to see the thing. And they stumbled upon something huge, and it's in other states. I saw someone, I think from Washington, post something of Craigslist with a picture of auction access, like, be a dealer without the fees, rent your auction access for $250 a month or something. It's a problem, and auction access has a lot to do with it too. They could really help us out in stopping this, but
yeah, they've got to know if someone's got 1,500 buyers on their license. How does that even happen? I don't get that.
or here's a better idea. You got a really big car lot. He's doing 400 or 500 cars a year for us used guys, and then you've got a wholesaler licensed out of his house. Some house in Mesa or wherever you live, and he's run 1,500 transactions in a year or what? Where does he even keep 1,500 cars? Because the ones that are opening titles for these wholesalers. Yeah. That's going to be a red flag too.
So to help me out here, I guess. So if as a dealer, aren't I allowed to put as many buyers on my license? I mean, how did Arizona, or where does that law come down to say, who says I can't? If I'm going to put my bond and my insurance and my license at risk, who says I can't do that for 1,200 of my closest friends?
I'm with you, Jeff, and I had that question written down. What was illegal about that operation? Where was the questionable legality, I guess?
So wholesale dealers are only allowed to sell, at least in our state. So in our state, and we're really working on this. I know some states have said they've got rid of wholesale dealers altogether. Because the problem was it's not retail dealers putting 1,500 people on their license. Retail dealers, we're spending the expense of, in Arizona, it's far less expensive to get a wholesale license. You don't have to have the building, it doesn't have to be retail, the bond's cheaper. So for Arizona, I could speak about, retail dealers are definitely not the problem or the majority of the problem here. When you have a wholesale dealer, he is allowed to buy from a dealer and sell to a dealer, buy from an auction and sell to a dealer. He's not able to put a car for sale on the street. He's not able to sell it directly to Joe Consumer. And the illegal part was how they were taking them from one state to the other. And without going into too much detail, there's obviously third-party title places in our state. There's also, you're going to have a retail dealer at the end of the line for these 1,500 dealers to open these titles up. So it's the income portion of it and taxes and stuff. That if you're making money, not important to the government's going to want to know about it. The licensing portion of it comes back to who's ultimately issuing the license and opening these titles to be sold. In Arizona, if you sell a retail car, it has to be done at your establishment, at your place of business with your licenses in plain view and all that. So you can't put them on a curb. So that was part of our curb zoning act. Now in Arizona,
unless you're Carvana,
if you have a car on the curb, unless you're Carvana.
Okay,
if you have a car on the curb in Arizona and no plate, they can tow it now. It's great. They just take it. So
they should, right? If it's not licensed, if it's not registered, yeah, you ain't got that sucker.
Yeah.
What's funny is you just brought up Carvana, and I buy a lot of Carvana cars, and every single Carvana car I get has an Arizona title. What's the deal with the Arizona title? Because it must be an easy title to get.
No, the owner and his son live here. That's Carvana's actually, I believe, out of Arizona.
Yeah, it's based out of Tulsa or something.
Yeah, but I don't understand why that all the titles are coming through y'all state. Even if I buy the car in Florida, it was traded in Florida. It should have had a Florida title, and all of a sudden it has an Arizona title. It seems like maybe it's a good place to wash the title or something.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that. I haven't dealt much with Carvana. I know all the stories, but
who's the registered owner of the title, Luke?
Carvana.
Okay, so they're just taking a trade in and they're just titling it in their own name.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing.
To protect them from you losing the title and then having to go back to that owner to get it.
And that must be what
we've talked about doing that here. We've talked about every single piece of inventory we send in for a Utah title. It's $6. We get it titled in our own name so that it stops any kind of issue if the title gets lost,
Jeff,
or then I can just quickly go get a duplicate made.
It's great that you just said that. So we just had a big discussion. So you're asking about wholesalers and all this and the Carvana thing. I think Carvana is licensed in Arizona. It may have something to do with it. But to touch on what you just said, I title every single vehicle into my dealership's name before I sell it. I've had issues where I get a title at auction and I stick in my folder, and by the time I go sell it, something's happened with that dealer or something's happened with that title, and now it's tied up. So every title I have, I title myself for the $6. I had a thought that, if every dealer in any state were required to title, even if I got the vehicle in my own state, were required to title the vehicle into their dealership's name instead. A lot of the stuff is the reassignments on the back. You get a title from Texas, it's sold to an Arizona dealer. That Arizona dealer reassigns it to someone in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to track that. It's hard to track the movement in interstate investigations, as you've seen Arizona trying to do. If every dealer had to do that, that would be, because the unicorn of 50 statewide e-title, as much as that would just stop everything, it's a unicorn. It may exist somewhere. I've never seen it happen. So, but if every dealer had to do that and every wholesale dealer had to do that, if you buy a car from Texas, but you do business in Arizona, you have to title it in Arizona before you can sell it to a Pennsylvania dealer. If they sell it to Utah, it would just create a great tracking mechanism. I also had the thought of the increased revenue for department, because we've managed to increase a lot of revenue under our task force. Any fines go back into the funds to fund further enforcement, that was a big thing. And of course, Department of Revenue, they got on board because they realized all the revenue that they can go and seize. They've had houses seized, property seized from these guys. But with the increased revenue of the $6 a title, I'd pay $8 a title for dealer reassignments if I knew $2 was going to fight, bad dealers and curbing and make my state better. So it'd be a great solution.
Yeah, that's true. And you talk about the unicorn of a nationwide e-title system. Instantly, like you said, the funds that would be recovered from stopping any illegal transactions and missing out on those revenues for state by state easily would pay for itself, right?
You would think so.
So our governor, really, he was the one to help us with that, and Dave, when we wrote the law. And so when we put all this together, in fact, I had some numbers here somewhere, our curb stoning have any fines we assess. So in Arizona, it's on average about $1,000 a car. We can see cars and go back further, but it can be even more than that for the curb stoning portion of it. Then the Department of Revenue, they're going to go after you for the tax evasion and all that. But any fines, any money that's collected goes back into a fund that is dedicated to this task force and the increase. We had one officer investigating for the entire state, or one detective when this first started, through the Office of Inspector General. That's one guy combating cars on every single curb in the state of Arizona, it seems like. So with the fines that are created and the funds that go back into it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and allows for more enforcement, more tools, you could say, to use do enforcement. And that's the real key to how we've grown this. It hasn't cost taxpayers one dime to employ more officers, which creates jobs, to build this bigger and level our playing field, because they're getting it from the fines imposed on these illegal dealers.
How many curb stoning officers do y'all have in Arizona? And also, to that effect, are they allowed to carry a gun?
Oh, yes, they do carry a gun. When I go to the meetings, it's they're licensed badged officers. Most of them are either ADOT enforcement. I won't mention their names just in case they don't want me to talk who they are, but yes, most of them carry guns. That's going to be your go out and enforce, investigate stuff. Then we've got Office Inspector General, who also has gun carrying guys, but we've got some back end, very smart, I would almost say like FBI smart, analytical people who can get into webs and see where money trails and where IP addresses and stuff like that. And it's gone to a digital age of marketing anyway. So it's your Facebook marketplace, your Craigslist, your offer ups and all that. And how do you know which one's a curber and which one's not if they're all post and private party? There's ways to tell that. Several other states use programs like we have to track that, and that works well. But yes, our amount of officers we have has increased exponentially. I don't know the exact number of gun carrying officers out there, but we had one, and now I sit in a meeting with 5 of them every month.
So there's ways that we can be aware of who's curb stoning around us, right? And where dealers can try to report it. Maybe mention that. You kind of talked about there's some telltale signs, and obviously there's things we can do as dealers. We should not be selling a wholesale car or selling a trade-in with an open title to Joe Schmo that comes in and wants to take it across state lines. So we think we can just, sign our side of it and leave it as an open title, right?
That's not legal. That's not legal as a dealer to do. So if you're
your repos, right?
Yeah, if you're
legally,
doing that,
I can sell. You can sell your repos as the bank with an open title.
Well, I still think you're doing questionable acts as a dealer that way. So let's just make sure that no dealer sells any cars with open titles, because you're asking to get yourself in trouble.
So
Luke, I agree.
Sell that cash car,
in Arizona,
you're filling in his name on the physical title.
I don't give anyone a title that's reassigned. The only time I reassign a title is if it's in my personal name and I'm selling to a wholesaler, and I reassign the back, write their name in, and I photocopy and keep my records. The way that I do business and a lot of other dealers do, in Arizona, it's not illegal, but there's no such thing as a title only anymore. If you're going to sell a car to a consumer, you can't just do a title flip. You have to do the plates, the registration, emissions and all that if you're in an emissions environment, which has helped a lot. But I get customers that come in from out of state. We do some other vehicles that, old Jeeps and stuff, so we'll sell on eBay. They don't leave with a signed off title. I get their information, my same title apps, all the paperwork I normally do. And in Arizona, I can transfer the title into their name so they have an Arizona title with their name on the front, but their address in Texas or wherever. And then my name's no longer on it. It's not an open title. It's for them. And the only way they can do something with that title is if they take it and transfer it into their name in their home state. So it just shows that I've done my end of the deal. It's done. I don't give anyone a signed off title.
And I think that's a very good process to have. The only time I'd send a title anywhere is the auction. If I'm selling a car at the auction, of course, it's going to have our. Yeah. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about the auction's responsibility in this, because reading through a lot of the things on the Facebook page, that kept coming up. Where should auctions fit into this? Did y'all discuss that, or has it been discussed with the state of Arizona? Because it sounds like y'all have the best laws out there.
Well, we work really close with the auctions, and so you get a lot of dealers in there. You get a lot of the bad, and so your good dealers know the bad ones. We know them, and we start working really close with the auctions to kind of see what information we get. Now, granted, they're not just going to offer up. They make money. The more cars that sell, the more it sells for, the more they make. And we understand that, but they want a fair marketplace. One auction in town we have in particularly it's actually kind of known as a smaller auction here. They really caught on that they had an issue at their auction. It was driving away good dealers, and we have these curbers going on. And they took steps that I've seen in other states to really enforce this. So you have to have, now, if you have an auction access card, you can get in. And most auctions allow guest passes or whatever. This auction has just said, no, you have to show your auction access card to even get in the front door. And you have to have your own bidder badge. You can't, share and all that. That's how, but the auctions is a touchy situation. I'm sure they see the problem like we all do. I'm sure they know that some of them could be more helpful in enforcing it. But at the same time, if you have auction access, like you said, Jeff, there's nothing that says I can't have 15,000 buyers on my thing. If I got the same dealer with 15,000, if every dealer at the auction, if 50% of them is tied to one license, what do they care if they have their auction access? They have the requirement to be in the door. How they got it is not the auction's job to figure out, so to speak. So it's touchy.
But help me out here. When an auction sends out, and I think this is the same for all auctions, but when they deliver a title, it's going to say Godwin Motors as the seller, and obviously every state's different. It's all confusing. I don't get into that, but Godwin Motors is the seller, and then they're going to stamp it, sold through Mannheim, blah, 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 blah. But they don't write in the buyer. They don't write in my dealership as the buyer.
Yeah, they do.
In Arizona, they do. In Arizona, they do
all
that.
Those auctions do it.
They do.
So yeah. Even those wholesalers, I mean, they're giving their agent something that says it got sold to Joe Schmo's Wholesale, and Joe Schmo Wholesale is then just flipping that title into a.
That's what I noticed. It said that in that article, it said that they were charging a $150 fee to get an Arizona title, correct, or something to that effect. So they were doing all the paperwork for the curbstoner, I guess you should say, and just making extra money off of it. Whose
name were they putting that title into?
I guess in that dealer's name, right?
I actually don't know the end of that story. It's like I said, being on the task force, one thing, knowing the investigation, another.
Yeah.
I will tell you, in Arizona, we did pass a law that every wholesale dealer, if you're a wholesale dealer, you cannot reassign a title. I know that, I get a car and I'm going to sell it to the next dealer and they sell it to the next dealer. We use the reassignments on the back title. In Arizona, if you're a wholesale dealer, this was a big thing too that created some upset for some wholesalers, but it makes sense. Wholesale dealers are required to transfer the title into their name. I think all dealers should be required to do that. It just makes sense. I don't know why some don't, but in Arizona, wholesale dealers are required to transfer the title in their name before they can reassign it anywhere.
Through the DMV.
Through DMV, yep.
Okay.
So they get an
the
Arizona
DMV
title.
Is aware that they had a transaction. That's the issue. Is
yes.
The auction doesn't talk to the DMV, so you don't know that this wholesaler's running 1,200.
Well, they've got to
purchases
know
out of the
something.
auction because he's not running them all to the DMV under his name.
Well, I mean, they were having to get all the name. Well, no, they weren't. So yeah, never mind. So I got a question. Was the dealer that got in trouble, was he a part of the association? Was he a member?
No, the funny thing is they said in Chandler and Gilbert, which is, I'm born in Chandler and Gilbert, but I looked at the photos because, again, we helped create this thing. We talk about the scale that we've done and the measurement and how well it's doing, where it's going. But just like no detective's going to tell you who they're investigating or anything like that, which I would rather not know till it's over. And then we get, the news a couple of days before it broke out all over Facebook and the news and TV out here about what was going on. And Dave and I we knew something big was coming down. They were really working hard and all that. We had no idea it was this big. And then to find out it's right in my backyard. I mean, it's literally, 4 miles that way is the godfather of this thing. And I will tell you, I noticed there was a little strip of cars that's kind of bothered every time I drive by. I just kind of grit my teeth, and they're not there anymore. And it's always like 15 or 20 cars down this country road that they're not there anymore. So
with no licenses on
whatever they're doing. Or temporary tags. And in Arizona, if it's a wholesale car or no license or anything like that, they're supposed to tow them. But most officers, regular law enforcement officers from city municipalities, they're not aware of that law, nor are they have enough time to get a tow truck to tow 15 cars off the side of the road. So that's just because it's a law doesn't mean it's well enforced. But yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So you didn't know the guy. He didn't hit your radar.
No.
Even though this guy had been running a 1,200 agent ring out of.
Yeah, I was like you guys probably. I was looking at especially in Arizona, I'm trying to zoom in on the pictures and see who they are. Like, 'cause there's been some that got busted, we all know. And in Arizona, we'll publish that. If they get in trouble and once the investigation's over and found guilty, so we don't. And we'll send out there for every dealer, say, hey, this dealer was just indicted. Don't be like him. Come to our training class. Become compliant. So it's always kind of fun for dealers to talk at the auction because it's like a boys club there. When someone we know has been doing wrong forever actually does get busted, and what happens, and it kind of warns other ones. But this one, I have never seen these guys, and I talked to everyone at auction. I've never seen them in my life. They probably just figured out a hustle and went with it. They probably never been in the car business.
With $6 million in revenue since 2016 or 17, they probably really didn't need to do much.
No. I think they went to the mailbox a lot.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So tell me this: how do we recognize these? Because you saying that makes me remember there's a small ranch house very close to mine that has always got about 20 vehicles parked in the sticks around it that all have Arizona license plates on them, and I never really connected the dots. I'm like, oh, maybe they just like to drive a lot of cars. But I mean, you got 20 to 25 cars on your property. I mean, obviously that's something sketchy, and I probably should go by and see if they're all gone now. I wouldn't doubt if they were connected.
Are they selling them or?
No, I don't. They're not for sale, but they're there, either coming or going, or who knows, or maybe they've got them listed somewhere. I honestly don't know. But as dealers, how do we recognize those things? How can we see that? Is this something we should be policing our own, local Craigslist, our own local marketplace, and making people aware of these things?
Well, in Arizona, we encourage it actually, and we work very hard to educate consumers too. Of course, once the fund gets bigger, maybe we'll have a public service announcement or something like that, and as this continues to grow, because I mean, how far it's come to where it is now, it's not done growing, and the better it does, the bigger it's going to grow and get funded. But in Arizona, I don't know how you guys do your temporary tags or renew your licenses or anything like that, or your motor vehicle services, your online portal. Every dealer in the state of Arizona uses basically the same portal that has different access for wholesalers versus retail dealers. But in that portal, there's a click to report curb stoning, completely anonymous. It does not tie back to you. You click if you have you see a guy that's got 16 cars on Craigslist. They have no rear license plate. They're all paper tagged or something, and the same phone number pops up, and that you just see him signing through cars. You can just copy paste those links, click it, send it. No one knows you sent it. And that helps these officers to maybe catch on to something that they haven't caught on to, or a new one coming in the game, or someone's changed their phone number or whatever. So we encourage it. And I know there's a lot of dealers that do it, but no one talks about it because you want to be at auctions, think you're a snitch or something. We encourage it. I think every time someone says, hey, can you report this for me? Can you turn this in? Because they think somehow the association actually investigates these, what we don't. Or, I get talked about all the time. I encourage them to do that. And if they don't want to do it, I said, give me what you got and I'll do it for you. It's really, you're bettering all of us by doing it. So, but we have that set up in Arizona. We do try to police ourselves, and it does help.
So let's wrap this up with I guess what every independent organization should do. What, as a member of our association on the state level, what should we try to encourage our executive directors and other dealers to do to get legislation like yours passed in our states?
I think that there's a lot of states that are looking to do that, and they've called for advice, and our executive director is very knowledgeable about this. I think the key point is you need to find someone in your state that will rally around you. You find something that's going to be allowed in your state like we did, and work to fine tune it. And then you need a sponsor to get it legislated, and find someone that really is a heavy hitter. We were fortunate enough to have State President Fan, to help us with this. And at the time, she was the director of the Transportation Department in the Senate. Working with your legislators, developing those relationships, depending on, I know each state have different IADAs, and those states have different levels of relationships or what they do amongst their state senators and state politicians. Arizona works really hard to stay close and work well and develop these relationships. So if you can get your state IADAs to get together, put something together like Arizona did, and then work hard to get with the legislators. And the key factor in it, and really, and this is me speaking just dealer, is when the state benefits from it as well, they're more likely to do it. I mean, it's the truth. If the state's going to benefit from it as well, like the Department of Revenue, they're more likely to do it. So if you can make sure the state's getting a little bit of money, but some of that money is going to go to further this, this curb storing project, I think that was the key factor in why we were so successful.
I think, it's so great that you said that, is Sean talked about this, I guess, last week, Jeff, and it's the relationships we need to build with our legislators and our congressmen and our senators. All of this really goes a long way for making the laws that affect our business easier to get passed and also have more teeth in it. And also that when the state benefits, if you can show the state a revenue source, it's hard for them to turn it down.
That's it. That's
awesome.
All right, Jeff.
Jared, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you chatting with us this morning and all the great information and everything. I'm sure if anyone wants to connect with you, they can find you on Facebook. They can find you on your website, at your place, and probably convention, I imagine, huh?
I'll see you guys in Vegas. I'm already booked. I already got my hotel room and ready to go.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome to see.
All right, Jared, thanks so much.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us today. Hope this episode inspired you to take positive action. Remember to subscribe so you get each episode the day it comes out. And we would love your help spreading the word. Leave us a review and share this podcast with your dealer friends. Dealers helping dealers learn and grow together.